Good morning. Today I wanted to show you just what I call camouflage makeup, learning how to contour and highlight certain features of my face has helped me tremendously to be able to cover things that I don't want and to highlight things that I do like in my face. And so I learned this from a good friend of mine, and so I wanted to show you some tricks that I've learned about that. Now I've already scrubbed and cleansed and treated my face. So now what I'm going to do, and moisturized too, and now what I'm going to do is use a little bit of face primer. This helps to keep the makeup in place and also to kind of just fill in any of the unevenness or cracks or whatever that you might have in your face. And I love putting this stuff on. It just feels like silk. So this is called Touch Glorious face primer. Put a little bit more on the top. Takes very little because it covers so nicely. There we go. Okay, so that, first let that set just a little bit. And while I'm setting that, actually what I'm going to do is take my concealer for highlighting. And this is a trick that I learned from my sponsor. I'm going to put a little bit of it just right on my hand. It's very thick and it takes very little, but I'm just putting a little bit on my hand so that my body heat will warm it up a little bit so that it spreads a little bit more easily. And I have a visitor here, but I guess this is life, right? Anyway, so while that's warming up, I'm going to go ahead and get my foundation brush. And this is a Mineral Touch Liquid Foundation. The color that I have here is Velour, and I'm almost out. It's time for me to get some more. But the good news is I've had this like for over 2 months, and this also takes very little. I just put just a few drops on my brush. And then, I guess I should have taken the necklace off. I won't go that far. Okay. And then just brush it in. This has such good coverage. You see how it's just covering all the redness? And when this foundation dries, it dries to a powder. So it's not like those heavy, oily type of foundations that you get at the drugstore that that feel really heavy on your face. This stuff is just nice and light. I never thought that I would like liquid foundation until I tried this stuff, because all the other stuff used to make me break out a little bit because it was too heavy and too oily. I'm just going to leave that. This was a gift from my kids for Mother's Day, probably about, I want to say 8 years ago. I wear it every day. I love it. I'm kind of sentimental that way. Make sure I get this all even. Look at that coverage. Isn't that nice? So that's the first thing, is to even everything out, cover everything as much as I can. And then what I do next, I have a little bit of a darker foundation, and this one is a stick foundation. This color is Charmeuse, I think that's how you say that. So it's a little bit of a darker tint, and this is what I'm going to use for contouring. I'm going to add some slimness in some areas and come up in here with my Eddie Munster forehead line and kind of try to, sorry millennials and people after that, if you don't know who Eddie Munster is, you might want to look that up because it was a really awesome show, The Munsters. Anyway, I'm going to try to hide that a little bit, or at least pull it back in the background, and then this little gobbler thing that I have here going too. So I just use an old brush that I have because I haven't gotten all of the brushes that I want from Unique yet, but I have this old brush, and I just put a line right here blend that in a minute. But you can see even before really blending it in, it just kind of shapes the face a little bit and makes it not quite as round. Now I don't have a super round face, so I don't have to do this a lot, but I do want to look a little bit thinner, so this kind of helps to do that. Oop, went up a little too high there. And then I come up into the hairline here. Just gives a little bit more color, and then up into this, I guess they call it a widow's peak, I don't know. And I even put this darker stuff like right into my hairline here, because I've noticed as I've gotten a little bit older that it's thinning out a little bit up there, and my scalp is really, really white, and so if I just kind of camouflage that scalp a little bit, put some color in there, it just doesn't show up quite as much. And one of these days I'm going to get a haircut, so I won't have to keep my hair pulled back all the time. But for now, I just put it right into my hairline a little bit. And now here's the fun part. I'm going to draw a jawline. I used to have a much more defined jawline, but gravity has not been my friend over the past almost 58 years now. I'll be 58 in March. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Especially now that I'm using these wonderful products, because I know I don't look 58. So again, just drawing that jawline in there. Get rid of the gobbler a little bit. Doesn't really get rid of it. I mean, you probably have to go to surgery for that, but it definitely draws it back, and you put the darker stuff on areas that you want to pull back a little bit so that it gives an illusion of a shadow. That's what the idea is there. Okay, and I will come back in and blend, I promise. Another thing I'll do is I'll put just a little bit along the side of my nose here, just to kind of thin it down a little bit too. I've never liked my nose. I don't know too many people that do, women anyway. And so if I just kind of put a little on the sides, I'm going to highlight in the middle to bring out so that I have one of those long, slender, not model noses. I'm going to put a little bit right in here too. So I have kind of a bulb at the bottom there. See how that just kind of contours the nose just slightly and up into the brow. Okay. I don't use a lot there because it really shows up if I do. All right, so now I use this wonderful concealer. I have several places I like to use it. Most importantly, right in here, these bags or dark circles that I have had all my life, but especially have become more prominent as I've gotten older. I'm going to put that in there first. That looks really bright. And I also have this wonderful little gem right here. It won't make the cracks go away, but it does definitely diminish their appearance if you just add a little bit of highlighter concealer in them. Okay. Also, right in here in the laugh line, just kind of see the difference. It just kind of pulls it back a little bit. Takes that shadow out of there a little bit. So I haven't lost the laugh line, but it just kind of makes it a little bit less. Okay. blending brush. My kabuki. I hope you get a kabuki. They're awesome. And then just right in here, blend it in a little bit more. I even bring some of that concealer. I let it come up onto my lid because it seems to also help with, when I put shadow on, it helps to hold it on even better. See how that brightens that area? And then blend this in a little bit here. Just want to get rid of any lines that are left, so that when I go on to put the rest of the makeup on, everything will blend in nicely. Bring that down a little bit more. Okay. So now what I feel like I have is I have a nice, even, not too many shadows, but just enough highlights and enough contour kind of canvas for me to color on, paint on with all of my artistic makeup that I'm learning about. And so last thing that I did want to show you, of course, is sometimes this may be all that I do. If I'm not planning on going anywhere, but I want to look decent for Zoom calls or whatever, then I'll at least set it with a little setting powder. And this kind of sets it, obviously, but then it also helps to draw like any shininess or any feeling of oiliness out. So I get a nice smooth canvas to work with. So that's my camouflage. I think it takes 10 years off my face just by doing the highlighting and contouring, and I hope that you'll play around with this, these ideas as well. And if you're interested in any of these products that I showed you, please message me or give me a thumbs up or something, and I will contact you. I just love this unique foundation. I love all of the unique products that I've been introduced to over the last couple of months, and I'm really eager to share them with you. So either way, I hope that you will make it a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.